Oh, hi there. You caught me playing with, checking out these nipples for the pump. So what do we got going on? Well, it is another cold and windy day outside, and this is a project that I've been thinking about for quite a while. This is just a cheap diaphragm pump. It worked pretty well for moving oil, water, diesel, different things like that. The air is nice because then you're not relying on an electric motor that could have problems. They actually, as far as I know, they actually have a decent amount of power to them. So before I spent a ton of money, usually if I'm gonna buy something, I buy really good quality. In this case, I didn't know if this is exactly what I wanted and how well it's gonna work, so I didn't spend a ton of money on it. And the only bad thing about these things is that they give you these manuals that come in all these different languages, and it's like it's written so dumb you can't even understand it. At least it's got good pictures in there, and it's got a pretty decent parts diagram if you could find the right parts for them. So I don't remember if there was anything in the holes here. So the hose that I had is a 1/2 inch hose, so I had to go from 1/2 inch pipe to 1/2 inch barb fitting. So I ordered these nipples quite a while ago. I was actually planning on doing this last year and I didn't get around to it. So what the hell is it for? Well, let me show you what it's for. So I got the old trusty rusty hot blast furnace over here in the corner that heats the garage. I'm gonna unplug this. I have a fan up there that blows on that chimney, and this part of the chimney is actually well casing, so it's really thick. So I have that fan blow across, and it just kind of helps get the heat off of there and blow it around the shop. But what I did, I took this oil tank from my dad, and he got a new stove and didn't want to use the oil dripper anymore. So I plumbed this into the top of my stove, and let me show you. See, it's just dripping on top of that piece of wood. What the oil does on the wood burners that makes it a lot nicer is it keeps the fire going a lot better and keeps the temperature of the stove a lot more consistent. A lot of times when you're burning with wood, the stove will burn for a while, then cool off, and you put wood in it, you'll get real hot, and then you'll have those temperature swells where the oil dripping in there just kind of keeps it constantly going, constant temperature. And the oil is free, and it's a pretty good heat source. So the pain with this thing is I wanted to get it up high enough where it was out of the way. I keep a couple odd and end things, and I have some scrap. I keep my scrap barrels in there. So I wanted to keep this up out of the way, so I made this rack for it. But it's hard to put oil in the top. And I also got this oil drum from my dad, and it had some old crude oil in it. I started draining some of the excess waste oil into that drum, and then I'm thinking, you know, if I had a bigger funnel where I could make it easier to get the oil in there, and then eventually I could pump it up into this tank. So I ended up finding this drum funnel. And this is actually one of the slicker things that I have. It has a little nozzle that goes right into the top of this 55-gallon drum. And I just put that hook up there to hold the lid. But in the top, you can put a oil filter. So that you could take small drain pans and put them in here. The nice thing is you can put filters in here and just let them drip out, let them drain down into the drum, and then you can scrap. I just throw these filters in with scrap metal because they'll be dried out after that. Most of the filters you can put in here and leave the lid closed. This drum still has that crude oil smell, which I don't mind, but it's you can definitely smell it when you come over here. Also, it has an access on the back, which when I bought this drum funnel, I also bought this float gate, or yeah, it's kind of a float level indicator for the back. It was, I mean, it's good in theory. It would be really nice if this thing was out in the open and you could actually see that this thing popped up, or if I ever checked it. But I just could keep putting stuff in here and never checking this. So I think what I'm gonna do is, obviously you're gonna take that out because I'm not using it. So I'm gonna put the suction hose down in here and maybe keep it up off the bottom. No, it could be even a few inches. Keep the suction line off of the bottom just a little bit. And I think I'm going to mount the pump up here on the wall, somewhere where it's going to be out of the way, where I'm not going to hit my head on it. It's also going to be, I can still get the air line onto it. I have a air line plumbed in right here on a spool that's long enough to get over there. I probably only need to pump this out maybe once a year, if that. I've had this here for a couple of years now, and I haven't pumped it out. So, but I have been careful with not putting too much in there. If I had a bigger quantity of oil, I would put it in a 5-gallon drum, or these 2.5-gallon drum, and then dump it in the top. I was careful not to overload that too much. But so I got this semi clear, or not clear, but kind of translucent reinforced hose. Hopefully I have enough so I can run that down into the tank. I'll probably just put some zip ties in it to keep it from, or maybe a hose clamp, keep it from going in too far. So what I'll do first is make a little shelf or a bracket to mount that pump, and then I need to figure out what I'm gonna do up top. Obviously, one thing I'm gonna have to be careful of is to not overfill that tank. When my dad was using this, he came up with the idea to put this sight tube on there. So what we do is, or what I do is, close that off, and you open this valve all the way. You can see the oil coming up in there. So that'll give you an idea of how much oil is in there. So I just have to remember that when I'm pumping oil up in there, I need to be checking this level and not overfill it too much. I think all I'm going to do is put the hose in the top with some kind of a grommet or some kind of a bushing to hold the hose and just to keep that hole open. One thing my dad did install on there was that breather. He made a nice bracket and put a breather. That's that stainless thing that you see up on top there, so that it can pull some air or let air out actually while you're dumping the oil in the top so it doesn't burp back at you. This is the only thing that you have to, with a dripper, you have to remember to check this when you're closing down. Ask me how I know. I think my dad did it one time, and I did it one time in his garage, and it was just it looked like somebody dumped black paint all over the garage floor, and it was a mess. So make sure I check that when I'm closing up the shop. Once the stove is going really well, I only have it open not even a half a turn, just so it's dripping in there real nice. I could open up, what did I say, half a turn? Quarter turn? Whatever. So thanks for clicking on the video. Thanks for watching. Let's get to work. This is 3/4 inch plywood, and it's got this aluminum sheet clad on both sides. I think the old owner said that they got these out of some kind of a trailer of some kind. I don't know if it was a semi-trailer or what it was, but it's the whole thing is, all the walls are done with that, which it's got a lot of seams in it, but it's nice because it's got 2x in here for joists, and it's insulated. So it's nice because you can drill and put stuff up anywhere. It's kind of, the angled walls in here are a pain though. I was gonna make a shelf and put this thing so that it was plumb, and I was gonna mount it on this 2x that's in there, but I would only be able to get one side, and so I just thought I might as well just use, this will be up out of the way, I might as well just use the mounts that they got on there, and it should be fine like that. I'm just gonna go snug. That's what I was thinking about when I was putting these fittings in, is you never know with these cheap castings, you just can't go too tight with that stuff, so use plenty of Teflon and just snug them, because it's this stuff is cheaply made. So the bottom here is what was the bottom is the suction line. So I can get that hose. I'll have to get a couple hose clamps and get that run. And then I'll take the funnel off of there and figure out what we're going to do up there. We got enough for the top. See how full it is. Maybe 16 inches from the top. I guess I really don't have to worry about it hitting the bottom. A couple of ice grips back. Yeah, this screen, we're gonna have to think about doing something with a screen like that inside of the drum funnel when I go to pour those big jugs in there, because you can get all kinds of different crap in the drain pan and all that, and I don't want it going in the drum, so I might have to make a piece of screen to go in that drum funnel. I don't know if you can see that. See all that crap in the bottom? Oh yeah, just pour the oil all over the floor. Oh my god. You probably have a hard time seeing, but this is just the top of the drum here, and it's real thin. So ideally, I was thinking about a piece of plastic or rubber that would push in there and hold the hose, but I found this piece of fitting. It's like goes from pipe to inch and a quarter maybe, or inch and a half plastic, and that actually threads in there. It's hard to believe that. I mean, that's like the perfect size. So at least it'll keep the hose off of the edge. It kind of tapers down a little bit, so there's not quite as much gap between the hose and the fitting up here. Yeah, so I think I'll just put maybe I'll just put some electrical tape around there just to keep the big chunks from falling in there. It doesn't have to be perfectly airtight, obviously, but so I'll just figure out how far I want that to stick down in there, and I'll probably just tie it off up here. This black line is probably going to be a permanent fixture in here. It's some kind of an old, I don't know if it's a suction line or what it is. It's like 20 feet long, and it's something that I'll probably never use, so that can stay there. So I'll get some tape for this, figure out how long this line is going to be, and get that on there, and then should be ready to give it a try. Oh boy, back to snow. A little lake effect snow blowing in here after that storm. Well, let's give it a try. This airline isn't regulated. I did try to run that pump before on like 50 pounds. I think the first couple times I tried it, I dialed it down because I didn't want to ruin it. and it didn't want to do much, so it seems to want a higher pressure, so see what happens. So what is what is going on here? When I had the fittings off of here, I tested it and it was trying to move air. The only thing I can think of is there's something in there that keeps it from, it's going to keep it from pumping with it on its side like that, but that doesn't, it doesn't make any sense. Do we really have to do with having it mounted like that? That was what I was questioning before. Guess I should have just gone with the first design, putting it on a shelf. So I'll make a shelf so that it's level, or plumb straight up and down. And then the next time I start it, I'll mark this somehow so I can see how it's pumping. And it's hard to see the level down in there. But I guess with that drum funnel off, I can look down in there. Yeah, it pumped down a little bit. It's hard to tell. Hard to tell how good it's working. I guess I just make a shelf for it and mount it straight up and down and use it and just see. I guess for the, once a year or whatever that I got to pump this drum out, it's gonna be okay. Of course, hindsight, I wish I would have just bought a good one like I wanted to. It only makes sense that this is what we used to use down at Harley. We had a big stainless drain bin that we dumped all the used oil in, and we had things that we stuck the filters on the drain, and that's what we used to pump it out. So yeah, not super happy about that, but oh well. Of course, I don't know what's going on in there either that would affect being up and down. So we'll probably be plowing snow in the morning. Yay. And then I'll probably come back over here and get that fixed up and see how long it takes to pump that down. We'll be back. Let's try this again. So what I figured out was this particular pump, is being a cheaper one, I think it has check balls in there. It has check balls in here, and laying it on its side, it was actually partially inverted. The check balls were open and it wasn't pumping right. So I did look at how those pumps work, and it uses air inside of the diaphragms, and it pushes over, and then it switches the air over to the other side of the chamber, and it basically just pushes those diaphragms back and forth to pump. It was in the teens last night that said the temperature feels like around 0, so this stuff is really cold, and it's not very warm in here. It's only like 45 in the garage. So next time I get out here and get the wood stove going and get all this warmed up, I'll try to pump this again to make sure I turn this off. It doesn't seem like it's really pumping hardly anything. That might have been creeping up from just from having that open. I don't know how much it's pumping. I could undo all that tape and pull that out and see how much is coming out. And so we'll see how well it works. At least was able to make the little shelf to hold that on there. If this pump doesn't happen to work out, at least I know in theory that'll work for pumping the oil, and you know, I could get a better pump down the road. So yeah, we'll just get it warmed up, see how that works, and it's just a little project that I wanted to try to get done here, and so if I can think of it next time I'm out here, or next time I talk about something in the shop, I can give you guys an update on how that works. But so I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks.